Hi friends, welcome to class today, September the 9th. I'm sorry I'm not here. I'm at a doctor's appointment, but I will see you all next week for sure. And you can access this lesson on your Google Classroom as well. So there's a point where I actually do a demonstration of how to do an observational drawing. And at that point, probably pause the video so you guys can access that video on Google Classroom, because it is a little lengthy to show you how to pinpoint certain spots of an object to draw them. Okay, so today you are going to need a pencil, an eraser, a sketchbook, and one object of your choice. And I recommend a very simple object, like a sphere or a cup, to practice your skills with shading and all of that fun stuff, okay? So during this time with Miss Lisa today, you're gonna have your camera on, make sure your microphone is off. Unless you have a question, of course, please raise your hand, and you should have your studio space set up and ready to go right now, okay? And here we go. Okay, so our goal for today is to basically draw one object from observation. That's just looking at an object. We're going to continue practicing your graphite skills that we learned last week and build on them. And we're going to build on that shading as well, okay? We're also going to utilize gesture and contour lines today. That was a little bit of homework, but if you didn't get to that, it's fine. It's basically outside lines and inside lines, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. Okay. Drawing from observation brings together everything that we've learned in the past week or so. Okay, so your shading techniques, your value scales, and your contour and gesture drawing. Okay, and you can see there's a picture of a cup that we just quickly did an observational drawing of, but you'll notice that it has shading, it has shadow, and it has texture. So those are things we're going to be talking about as well. All right, so just a review, these are some of the shading techniques that you can use today and that we practiced last week, okay? From your hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, scribbling, circling, finger blending, basically anything to bring value to an object, okay? And just remember that it's important to add value to an object that you're drawing so that it does give that optical illusion that it is three-dimensional rather than just a flat circle or object. Okay. Contour drawing. Just a reminder, it is the outside line of an object. Okay, it's not the details inside, so it's not the shading, it's not the texture, it's the very simple outline. And so that's what we're going to start today with the observational drawing, and then we're going to move on to shading as well. Okay, when you add in your shading, sometimes it's really fun to do a gesture. And so gesture drawing is just really quick scribbles to fill in, like we practice with scribbling or circling. Sometimes you can also do gesture drawings to also do observational drawings. For example, the image on your right is actually a gesture drawing of a still life. And that's what we're going to be doing today. There's a little bit of a still life, less gesture, a little more contour, but you find the right balance. You are the artist. Okay. Today we're going to talk about artist choice. Okay, so when I talk about choice, I'm talking about mainly like the object and the materials you're going to be using to draw with. Okay, so you're going to choose one simple object, and I'll explain that when I do the demonstration of your choice. You're going to start with contour lines, so basically drawing the outside line of it, and I'll show you how to plot some dots and how to make that happen. Then you're going to finally add in shading, textures, and shadows based on what kind of shading techniques you would like to use. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say artist choice. Just so you know, I'm going to put the slide up hopefully at the end again. Your homework is to continue to practice your pencil shading, your value scales, your shading techniques, contour drawings, and your gesture drawings. Okay, so I want you to really build those art muscles so that when we come to class next week, you're going to be able to do some really amazing things live in class, looking at views out of other people's windows, and it's kind of amazing. It's really fun to draw things that are moving from the wind, and it's pretty cool. All right, so that's what we're doing. And right now I'm just going to do a quick demonstration. When I start this, it's going to be about a 10-minute demonstration. So you're more than welcome to kind of watch and follow along. But basically you're going to find your own object to actually do this with. So I'm going to pin my video here so that you can see. Hopefully it works. Okay, here we go. All right, so I have my pencil, I have my eraser handy, okay? And my pencil is one that is not very sharp because I want to do some shading techniques a little bit later, and I'm not going to put a whole lot of pressure on my pencil today. I want to really have some light drawing skills, okay? You also see that I've set up my area for still life, and I've tilted my camera so you can see like from start to finish how I do this, okay? So basically I'm going to kind of take the objects away so you can see how I started. I just put a couple pieces of paper, one in the background and one on the bottom, so that I don't get distracted by other things in my way, okay? So it's just very simple. In fact, if you can see, if I flip my camera up, you can see, that I have lots of things in the background to get distracted by. So I want to make sure that I really kind of just zone in on one space. Okay, now I'm going to choose an object. So when I say simple, I really mean simple. We don't want to get something that's too complicated, okay? Like for example, this object might be too complicated, okay? But I just want you to practice. If you want to challenge yourself and use an object that's way more challenging, go for it. All right, so this is a cup. I might choose to use that. This is a very simple sphere. I could choose just something as simple as this. But I think today I'm going to try a little bit of a challenge, and I'm going to choose a vase like this, okay? Now, what you can't see is the way I'm seeing it is from a very different perspective. You guys are looking at it from the top down. I'm actually looking at it from a very different view. In fact, I'm going to move my camera so that you can see how I see it. I actually see it like this. So you're actually going to see me drawing it just like that, okay? But I kind of have it to keep my camera up so that you can see it. Okay, there we go. So once I have my object placed on my background like this, I want to notice a few things. I want to notice the shape, okay? I also want to notice any shadow that is cast because I'm actually going to be drawing that as well, okay? So you want to notice these things. So the light source is obviously coming in from my window and casting a shadow right here. Okay, now when I go to plot the object, and plot just means to place in on the paper. Boop. Make sure I get it all set up. Here I go. What I want to do is choose how big I want it. If I draw it really, really tiny, you're not going to really be able to see it. I want to try to draw it almost life size. So what I'm going to do is look at the different points of reference right here. So here's one right here. I'm going to put a little point here, and then I'm going to go across. Here's another point here, and then maybe I might do one like it comes down to the bottom right about there. So I'm just putting some little tiny dots to kind of help guide where I'm going to put in my lines. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put in kind of an ellipsis or an oval to start. Okay, and I want to try to connect those lines, almost like connect the dots. Okay, then again, I'm going to go and really look at the curve or the side of this vase and see how it goes. And I'm just going to kind of plot in those lines very, very carefully. I'm drawing very lightly. I'm going to go on this side as well. And then I'm going to kind of, and these are like quick kind of gesture drawings, but it's also a contour line, okay? And I'm going to kind of quickly put it in there, go on this side, comes around. And now I want to make sure that I hit this line down here. And this is why we have those reference lines, because I want to make sure that it's the right size. And here we go. Okay, now this line at the bottom is not going to be straight. It's actually going to match the curve right here on the top. So I'm going to put that in right there and imagine that there is an imaginary kind of ellipsis happening right there. But I'm going to erase that a little bit later on. Okay, now this is your basic contour drawing. Okay, now to add value, to make it look three-dimensional, I have to remember, where is my light source? So my light source is coming in from here, okay? And I'm just going to kind of draw my imaginary, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to draw my imaginary light source here. So here's my light source. It's coming across here and lasting over here. So of course, this area is going to be lighter. This area is going to be darker. But I also have a secondary light source coming up from this direction, and it's making some light color happening on this side too. Okay, so here I go. I can also see that inside of the vase there's a deep dark shadow happening there. And again, from what you guys see and what I'm drawing, it looks a little different because I'm looking at it from a different angle. So I'm just going to kind of do a copycat line here. And I'm not going to worry about the details inside. It's like filled with toys. But I'm just going to cast a shadow inside like this. And this is where you get to use those fun techniques that we were using before. I'm going to use some finger blending like this. Okay. And then on the outside, I'm going to actually start adding in some of that texture. So I actually see a line kind of coming across, and I'm matching the line that I drew before like this. Okay, and then I see another line across here. I'll go ahead and plot that line in like this. Okay, now because this is getting confusing, I'm going to erase that imaginary line down there. Okay, now it becomes just a matter of adding in texture and value. So I'm going to actually just start maybe doing some hatching, and I'm actually going to match the curve of the vase a little bit and bend those lines across. Maybe I might just do some cross hatching too to really kind of feel how that is going to look. Okay, and you can even add in some finger blending as well. All right, now I'm going to go in and continue to add in as much shading and texture as I need to really pull out the image and make it look very realistic. Before I do that, because here's a time where you guys can pause the video and watch it a little bit later on for more advanced techniques, but I wanted to show you one last thing. To really anchor your object to the ground, you want to really cast a dark shadow on the bottom here, and maybe in the area where it has the least amount of light, in this area on the bottom. Okay, and see where it's casting the shadow right here on both sides. I'm actually going to add in my shadow and stretch it across those areas to really kind of catch both sides of where the shadow is being cast. Okay, really kind of blend it in all the way across, and this is where it really starts to be fun and starts to look realistic. Okay, so shadows are very, very important, and you can use your finger blending, your eraser to kind of take away some of that color if you need to. And I'm just going to keep going, adding in more texture, maybe some stippling, because this face has a ton of like dots all over it. So I'm going to add in some stippling, some texture, really kind of bringing in all of the techniques that we've been studying. Okay, might even go in and crisp up these lines in here, adding some deeper shadows, deeper textures. Okay, and when you're all done, you can actually go back and clean up the area that you don't really need anymore. Okay, and I can take my light source away. You don't really need it anymore. And I'm not done, but you can see how if I add more and more texture to it, you can actually start to see it's going to start really looking like the object that I'm drawing, okay? And I almost made it life size. Almost. Made it a little smaller. That's fine. But you do want to utilize your space on your sketchbook. Okay. Keep going. Practice, practice. And I can't wait to see your amazing observational drawings on Google Classroom. All right, you guys. Have a really good night. And I am going to say goodbye. And I'll see you next week. Bye.